Hi there, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'll be picking out and working on my trees for our Fall 2018 Club Show. My first pick out of my possible 26 trees is my Avatar Grove that's behind me. My Avatar Grove is styled to resemble the old growth forest near Port Renfrew in British Columbia, Canada. Today I'll be showing you the steps I've taken to take my bushy looking forest and prune it down and refine it so it looks good for our club show. This coming up in the Bonsai Zone. Earlier today I started working on the Avatar Grove, so I'll take you back in time and we can look at some of the steps that got the forest to where it is now. I'm pruning the main tree in the forest to look like an old growth cedar tree, so it has all those upright type branches or trunks to give it that ancient cathedral type look. The rest of the trees in the forest will be pruned to look like younger trees, so they'll have the typical drooping branches, sort of triangular shape, so it'll give the difference between the old growth tree and the younger trees. I'm still quite bushy with the main tree here, especially up in this area. I've done a lot of thinning on the front here, which is looking good, but the back is just still really bushy looking. So I'm going to prune all that back more compact, sort out my branch structure, and get it looking good. My strategy on these old growth branches is to have an angled leader coming up in the middle, and then all the other branches coming off horizontally from that angled branch. So you have the main branch coming up, and then all these horizontal branches coming off of it. When pruning cedars, it's best to do a combination of scissor pruning, prune the tip off like this, and then pinching to get a rounded tip on your branch. There. So you can see how compact the end of that branch is now. As I'm pruning, I'm making sure I balance the amount of foliage that's on the lower branches with the amount on the crown. I don't want a really dense, heavy crown and lighter branches down below. I want it to look all nice and balanced. I've got the main tree pruned up now. I'm sure I'll be finding things over the next few days that I can, pinch tips here and there, do a little more refining. But basically the main tree is pruned up to size now, and I'm working on the individual trees, getting them to look like a conical shape so they look like younger trees surrounding the grand old tree in the middle. I will be cleaning up the trunk on the cedar trees closer to showtime. I'll be scrubbing them with a toothbrush and water to get all this lichen off and expose the nice reddish colored bark. Here's a shot of the main tree from eye level, and hopefully it looks like a giant old growth cedar. That was some of the work I did this morning, so now we're back to continue the work for the afternoon. So there's a shoot here that's out of the profile, and I'll cut that off right to here. Some of these shoots are way too long at the tips here. So I'm just going through each tree, checking the branch structure, sorting it out to get that classic conical coniferous type shape, making sure all my branches are nice and radial, spreading out from the center trunk, removing any branches growing straight up, doing lots of pinching to get my growth nice and compact. Pruning a forest like this can take several days. There's a lot of trees in here and a lot of pruning. As I'm working on the trees, I'm stepping back every now and then to check the progress, to make sure all the trees are balanced with each other, that one tree doesn't have more foliage than the other trees, so they look about the same kind of weight and density to the branches. While I'm stepping back and working on the trees, I check them out from all kinds of different views, above, the front, the side, to make sure the trees look good from all angles. I've got all the trees in the front pruned up, so now I'm working on the trees in the back rows. I finished pruning up the forest for today. The trees have made a lot of progress. I got a lot of their structural flaws sorted out, pruning off branches growing in the wrong directions. Yeah, so the next phase I'll let the trees grow in again. And now I'll start working on the landscaping. I've already removed a lot of the moss that was growing in the pathway and around the base of the main tree. I'll clean up the landscape, and then I'll start pruning and applying sand and making it look really nice. Before I start working on the landscape, I'll give the tree a good watering. It is a really hot day out today. One of the hottest days of the year. Hot and humid. So I'll keep the trees well watered today with nice cool rainwater, and that'll help them cope with the heat. A lot nicer to get in here with the watering can now that all this forest is being cleaned up. It's a little more spacious, the landscape. This forest has a lot of work to go on it still. These are just young seedlings. So I think, you know, this forest will just keep getting better with age. I think, you know, 10, 20 years from now, it's going to look really, really amazing. I hope anyway. There we go. I'll get the tweezers out and start cleaning up all the cuttings and clippings. If you've ever wondered what a little cedar seedling looks like, there's one growing right here. They start off life with little spiky needles on them, and then later on the scale foliage starts developing off the tips of these spiky needles. I'll show you a more developed seedling in another pot. Here's a shot of a little older seedling. It was started this year. So you can see the little scale needles, and now it's getting the Thuja occidentalis type foliage at the tips. As I'm cleaning up the trees, I just noticed a big fuzzy caterpillar on one of the trees here. I don't think he's doing any harm. I'll just let him crawl away. I do have a lot of little cedar seedlings that I planted this year. So next spring I hope to transfer some of them to this forest. So I have a good variety of sizes. I'll have little tiny seedlings. I'll have the sort of small saplings here, and then I'll have the big tree in the middle. So there'll be a good variety of sized trees. I'm going to put down some sand in the pathways next. So just, you know, a light sprinkling. just to indicate a bit of a trail. And I think that'll be enough. I'll give it a water and see how it looks wet. Alright, I'll add the water. I think that looks good. It just gives the indication of a trail. Next, I'm going to get out the little tiny scissors and start pruning the moss into little clumps so they look more like bushes instead of lush moss. For instance, this lump here, I'll break it up. It's too big. Something more like that size looks a little more realistic. I'll do the same here, just break it up a bit. Break this clump up here into smaller little clumps instead of one big blob. There's another clump here I can prune up a bit, separating them into two clumps instead of one big one. As I'm working on this miniature landscape, you start to feel like a giant. Everything starts making sense, the scale of everything. It becomes quite an illusion to your eye. And I think that's part of the magic of bonsai, is it takes you places. That's all the work I'll be doing on the Avatar Grove. I think it's in pretty good shape for the show. I'll do some minor adjustments before the show, cleaning the trunks, cleaning up the moss, and just, refining it more. That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for watching today in the Bonsai Zone.